Bancroft and Burnham helped Durham bounce back at New Road. Worcestershire's only championship outing before the One-Day Cup intervened delivered a convincing win over Leicestershire. For Durham, defeats by Derbyshire and Sussex had suggested a difficult season ahead. The visitors won the toss at New Road and chose to bat, but that confident move didn't pay off for Alex Lees. The opener bowled for a duck in Charlie Morris's first over of the innings. The Durham total had limped to 10 when they lost another wicket. A big moment for Worcestershire skipper Joe Leach on his return after a stress fracture of his back 11 months ago. And when the rejuvenated captain struck again in his next over, Hart LBW for a single, Durham were in familiar disarray at 14 for 3. It fell to skipper Cameron Bancroft to steady the ship and justify his decision to bat first. And the Aussies slowly put together a useful stand with Jack Burnham, who played the leading role in the partnership. He'd reached 42 with 7 fours at lunch, Bancroft a very steady 22 not out, and at 77 for 3, Durham had frustrated Worcestershire's attempts to build on their flying start. And they continued in similar vein when play resumed, Bancroft upping his scoring rate and catching up his partner. The captain hit George Rhodes for 6 as he and Burnham both moved past 50 to complete a century stand. The pair weren't finished there and continued to bat Durham out of trouble and into a decent position. They'd added 149 when they were finally separated. Bancroft LBW to tongue for 70. And in the very next over, the other half of the partnership fell too. Burnham caught behind off Morris for an impressive 76. And at 167 for 5, Durham were back in the danger zone. And the second collapse of the innings continued when Travaskis was bowled by Leach for 5. Durham had once again lost 3 wickets for 14 runs. No more alarms for Eckersley and Rain before the tea interval. Durham 194 for 6, thanks almost entirely to Bancroft and Burnham. The pair continued in steady fashion, adding 60 runs, but their good work was undone when Rain had a swing at Morris and edged him to slip. And in his next over, Morris had his 4th wicket, Eckersley caught behind for 22, and Durham were 240 for 8. The Matthews, Potts and Salisbury resisted well before Morris completed his 5-wicket haul, another catch for Mitchell at slip to remove Salisbury. The same combination struck again 5 runs later to dismiss Potts, and Durham's innings was over. One big partnership and some late resistance helping them recover to 273 all out. Morris with 6 for 53, overshadowing Captain Leach. And a day that started badly for the visitors had a happier ending. Mitchell was pinned LBW by Rushworth from the second ball of Worcestershire's innings. The home side 1 for 1 at the close, and surely frustrated that they couldn't build on their impressive start with the ball. Durham will be in contention if they can take more quick wickets on day 2. Vessels wax ton after Durham fight back at New Road. Worcestershire skipper Joe Leach marked his return after 11 months out with 3 wickets on day 1, but the bowling honours went to Charlie Morris with 6 for 53. Durham struggled to 273 all out, thanks to a century partnership between Bancroft and Burnham, but they did remove opener Darryl Mitchell before the close. Resuming on 1 for 1, Worcester was soon 6 for 2, fell LBW to Salisbury. And when the same bowler removed night watchman Morris caught behind, the home side was 17 for 3 and matching the rocky start Durham had made on day 1. The job of rebuilding the innings fell to George Rhodes and academy product Josh Dell on his championship debut. It was slow work, the run rate well below 2 and over as the pair edged the total past 50. At lunch, Dell had 21 from 74 balls and Rhodes 23 from 87. The pressure still very much on the home side, 216 runs shy of Durham's mediocre total. Worcestershire's situation didn't improve soon after the resumption, when Rhodes' patient effort was ended by Ben Rain, LBW for 28, 64 for 4, and a lot of responsibility resting on Dell's young shoulders. Luckily, he now had Ricky Vessels at the other end, and after taking 14 balls to get off the mark, the veteran gave Worcestershire's innings some much-needed momentum. He hit Travaskis for 2 sixes in 1 over, on his way to 50 off 56 balls. He was very much the senior man in the partnership, but Dell completed an impressive half-century, while Wessels raced towards three figures, adding 2 more sixes to his tally. The partnership continued unbroken until the tea interval, Wessels contributing 90 out of the 131 added, Dell on 58, Worcestershire 195 for 4, 78 behind, and they'd recovered well from that bad start to the day. And they continued to do so, the pair taking the total past 200 before Dell's memorable debut came to an end, bowled by Hart for 61. Nothing could stop Wessels though. He posted his 4th century against Durham and his 23rd in first-class cricket. He moved on to 118 before he perished, clipping to mid-wicket, with Worcestershire now just 37 runs behind. They soon added a second batting point, and Whiteley and Cox wasted little time in wiping out the deficit and building a first innings lead. Whiteley, who was dropped when he was on 4, reached his 50 as the home side passed 300. By the close, the partnership stood at 85 and the lead at 48 runs at 321 for 6. Far from plain sailing for Worcestershire, but they're on top thanks to Ricky Wessels. Tongue lashes Durham to set up a Day 4 win for Worcestershire. Ricky Wessels' first championship century for the county gave Worcestershire the upper hand after Day 2. His stand of 140 with debutant Josh Dell helped the home side close on 321 for 6, a lead of 48. Ross Whiteley had raced to a half-century late on in the second evening, but the informed batsman didn't last long on the third morning. Rushworth, who didn't take a wicket the day before, bowling him for 72. Ben Cox took up the batting mantle for the home side, but after he'd reached 38 he was removed by the Matthews, caught by Potts, bowled by Salisbury. And Joe Leach's first knock after his lengthy absence lasted just 4 balls before he was bowled by Salisbury. Just as Durham thought they'd managed to limit Worcestershire's lead, Barnard and Tongue mounted a last-wicket stand that took the advantage past 100. They added 36 runs to frustrate Durham further, before Travaskis picked up his first wicket of the innings, Barnard caught by Rushworth for 25. Worcestershire 390 all out, a lead of 117, and Durham faced a tricky 3-over spell before lunch at the start of their second innings. Cameron Steele reduced the arrears with a couple of boundaries, but at 14 without loss, the visitors still faced a testing afternoon. And the task didn't get any easier in the first over after lunch, when Alex Lees was LBW to Morris for 2, the opener's second failure of the match. And soon after, Leach was back among the wickets, bowling Steele for 17, and Durham were in trouble at 20 for 2. Bancroft and Hart steadied things, adding 49, but the skipper couldn't replicate his long stay of the first innings and was bowled by Tongue for 25. And when Hart had reached the same score, he was superbly stumped by Cox off Barnard, the Worcestershire bowlers sharing the wickets around. Burnham and Eckersley dug in to take the total past 100 and closer to wiping out that deficit. They couldn't quite make it, Eckersley bowled by Tongue, and Durham still trailed by 11. At tea, the arrears was 7, Durham 110 for 5, and a 3-day finish still possible. Soon after the restart, the visitors did at least go ahead. Tongue struck again, Burnham, his third victim, caught behind by Cox for 26. At that point, Durham was struggling to see out the session, but Travaskis counter-attacked, and with rain lending support, they began to build a small lead. But Leach's memorable return to action continued when he had rain caught at slip, and the end of Durham's innings came quickly after that. Tongue trapped Travaskis LBW for 47, and then bowled Salisbury with the next ball to complete his 5-wicket haul. The last word went to Leach, Rushworth caught behind in the next over. Durham all out for 197 and facing an inevitable defeat on the 4th morning. That last wicket brought stumps, but Worcestershire need just 81 runs to clinch their second victory of the championship season. Worcestershire wrap up the win despite brave resistance from Rushworth. A second impressive bowling display of the match put Worcestershire on course for victory at the end of Day 3. After taking a 117-run lead on first innings, they ran through the Durham batting, with Josh Tongue taking 5 for 37. The visitors all out for 197 just before the close, and the Pears needed just 81 runs to clinch their second win of the season. But Rushworth wasn't accepting Durham's fate, and he trapped Mitchell LBW for 9. 3 balls later, he bowled Rhodes for a duck, and it was clear Worcester still had work to do. Fell and Dell edged the score into the 40s, but the veteran seamer then did for the debutant. Dell bowled by Rushworth for 4. And 3 balls after that, he repeated the trick, castling first innings centurion Vessels for 0, and at 42 for 4, Worcestershire were really wobbling. Only Tom Fell had got going amid the carnage, hitting 8 fours in his 36. But when he was out, LBW to Rushworth, the host still needed 26 for victory, and the bowler had completed a remarkable 5-wicket haul. Whiteley and Cox calmed the home fans' nerves and edged their side towards the target. And when Cox brilliantly drove rain through the covers for 4, Worcestershire could relax a little. Sure enough, just before the end of the 20th over, they got over the line. 84 for 5 to complete a 5-wicket win that was much tougher than it might have been. 5 for 28 for Rushworth, a great effort in a losing cause, as Durham slipped to their 3rd defeat of the season with just 4 points. 2 wins in a row for Worcester, who take 23 points. They face another in-form side, Lancashire, at Old Trafford on Monday, while Durham are at home to Gloucestershire.